Hello. So today I'm going to talk about how to store macarons. There's a couple different ways you can store your macarons. I guess there's only really two. You can put them in the fridge or the freezer, but you don't want to leave them at room temperature, really. I mean, if you leave your shells at room temperature, like overnight, they're going to be fine, but they start to dry out. You just don't want to start your macaron out like that. So this is ideally how you would take care of your macarons. You would bake the shells and let them cool completely. Don't even touch them until they're cooled completely. Okay, don't try to take them off the trays yet. So bake them, let them cool completely. Then, ideally, while they're drying and baking and cooling, you make the filling. So then you take them out of the oven, you let them cool. They are at room temperature. Then you fill them, put them in an airtight container, and then put them in the fridge to mature for 24 hours. Then, after they've matured for 24 hours, you bring them to room temperature and eat them. That would be ideal. In perfect macaron world, that's how it would go. But if you don't eat them after maturing for 24 hours and you want them to last a little longer, they can stay in the fridge for, I'd say, maybe 4 or 5 more days after you mature them and they're good. It depends on the filling. So if you're just doing like a classic buttercream, one that's like cottage law approved, it's gonna last a little longer in the fridge than a cheesecake filling or something like that. So that's ideal situation, but you're probably selling them or you want to make a big amount for events or something. So then you could do something like this. So if you have to make some, like if you have to make bulk or if you're not going to eat them all right away, here's a couple things you can do. So let's talk about the fridge first. So if you're going to put them in the fridge, you can either do just the shells in the fridge or the full assembled macarons in the fridge. So the shells, I only like to put them in the fridge for a couple days before having them filled. They just start to get weaker and they're more fragile if I put them in there unfilled. Now, if you put the full assembled macarons, like if they're filled and put together in the fridge, probably about 4 to 6 days, depending on the filling you have in the shell and the moisture content in that filling. So if you're doing like the cottage food law buttercream that doesn't have any heavy cream or cream cheese in it or anything like that, then they're going to last longer than a cheesecake filling would or something that has jam in it or curd or that kind of filling. But about 4 to 6 days. If you don't hate this video, let me know by hitting the like button below. Really make sure that you have these in an airtight container, especially if you're putting them in a fridge that has other food in there. All right, so now if you're gonna freeze your macarons, the shells are gonna last a little longer frozen when it's just the shells and they're unfilled. But if you want to put them in the freezer, a macaron in the freezer that's full and has the filling in it, some people say 3 months, some people say 1. I wouldn't wanna say sell anything that's been in the freezer for longer than a month because it starts to lose its flavor. But I would say 1 to 2 months, 3 months if it's really in an airtight container and has like a more sturdy filling, not like a cheesecake filling. Also, if you're gonna freeze your full macarons, I would mature them before. I would fill them and let them go in the fridge for 24 hours before putting them into the freezer. So bake the shells, fill the shells, put them in an airtight container in the fridge. Then after 24 hours, take them out and put them in the freezer if you know you're not gonna use them for a while. Okay, because the freezer they don't mature in the freezer. All right, now bringing them down to room temperature. Ideally, you would take them straight from the freezer to the fridge for a couple hours and then to room temperature, all in the same container. Don't open it. But if you're just gonna eat one or you're telling someone how to get them to room temperature when you're eating them, I have people all the time that just take them right out of the freezer to room temperature and they're fine. But if you're freezing them and you're gonna then sell them and you want them to really be perfect, take them from freezer to fridge to room temperature. Fridge for a few hours and keep it in that airtight container. And if you really want to be careful, you can put parchment in between so the macarons aren't touching each other. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit subscribe and the little bell next to it, and it will notify you whenever I come out with more videos. Now, something else you could do is if you have a big event coming up and you don't have time to fill them, you could freeze the shells, make the filling, and freeze the filling separate. If you do that, you could either put it into a bag that you can put in another bag or put it in some sort of airtight container. Once you bring it to room temperature, you can scoop it out and re-whip it. So you're probably going to want, depending on the filling, you're probably probably going to want to whip it again after you thaw it from the freezer. I like to fill them first, then put them in the freezer, because I want to get everything done right away and then be able to go in there and have completed macarons if I'm going to do that. But if you have extra shells and you want to just make a bunch, like you know that you're going to be busy in a month, you could do that and then just fill them all before you're ready to sell them. Just make sure if you do that way, if you freeze the shells and then you're going to bring those to room temperature and fill them, they need to be matured for 24 hours as well. So that's kind of an important thing here, that you are not skipping the maturing stage. The freezer does not count as maturing. And really the most important is airtight container. I will link a couple that I like. And when I say airtight container, I just mean something like this. Okay, it doesn't have to be anything like crazy with like hooks and stuff. Just something that just keeps the air out and the other flavors from the fridge coming in and make your macarons gross. I've seen some people say that they use some just Ziploc bags, but I've never had freezer space safe enough where I could put shells in Ziploc bags. But you could put them in a Ziploc bag inside of another hard container that's maybe not airtight. That would work if you really want to put them in another container. These are good to do that with. If you just need something cheap, these are nice, but put them in a Ziploc bag before you put them in there, if you're going to freeze them especially. If I do something that's drizzled with chocolate or dipped, I like to do that after they've been frozen. So I will get the macaron already, freeze them, and then when I take them out and they're in the fridge and they've thawed in the fridge, I will then dip them in the chocolate and put them back in the fridge. So I guess the real question is, are they worth it? Yes, they're worth it. Okay, well, if you want to try to make macarons, this video is very helpful. I go step by step on how to make them, and join the Michelle's Macarons Facebook group. And you can post your pictures in there if you keep messing up. And if you want to start selling your macarons or other baked goods, join the email list. And I have a course called the Home Bakery Blueprint, where you can work with me to start or grow your home bakery business. Join the email list below and I will email you as soon as there's spots open for that. Okay, what video do you want to see next? I'm working on a pricing video. Okay, so I know everyone wants a pricing video. I really want to make that one good, so I'm working on that one. What else do you want to see? I've had a lot of people say more recipe videos. I'm gonna try to start doing those again. Tell me what macaron recipes you want to see below, or if there's any other kind of business or macaron tutorials you want to see. If you'd like, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and I will put those links in the description. Check out these other macaron videos. Okay, love you, bye.